Hey, what's up, and welcome to RealGM Radio. Here in a second, I'm going to be joined by Yaron Weitzman, the author of A Hollywood Ending, The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers, out now wherever you get books. We're going to talk about the LeBron Lakers, this entire era and what it's been, how LeBron and the Lakers have used each other, and I'm going to ask him how he thinks the LeBron era ends with the Lakers. You're not going to want to miss it. Enjoy. All right, Yaron Weitzman is on with me now. He's the author of A Hollywood Ending, The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers. Out now wherever you get books, Yaron. Thanks so much for jumping on. Appreciate the time. Great work on the book. I know you've been doing a few of these interviews, so we'll try to at least keep this interesting for you and our listeners here.
Okay, that sounds great. I love interesting. Let's go.
Let's do interesting. Well, this isn't your first book. You wrote previously Tanking to the Top, your book on the 76ers, and I'm curious, having covered the Sixers and then covering and working on this book about the Lakers, what was the difference in reporting on those organizations?
Okay, well, there's some this thing's going viral today about the that, which I guess is my fault, but the that they threatened to sue me, right? So I guess that's a big difference. The Lakers, so I'll go that story, but then I'll give a different answer. The Lakers, Jeanie Buss specifically threatened to sue me for defamation if the book came out. So that's obviously different. Though the Sixers weren't exactly welcoming. Like, I had some back and forth, but they kind of, I think they understood it, like the world, that it was a sports book and it's a little different. Yeah, they hired some. Josh Harris, the owner of the Sixers, hired some. He enlisted his super New York City PR firm to talk to me then, but the whole thing was different, right? But a better, like a more interesting answer, and I kind of noticed this early on. I would joke, and it sounds like it's offensive to the Sixers, but it's not. Like, I remember joking to my wife, being like, it feels almost like going from like doing the indie movie to like a blockbuster when you go from Sixers to Lakers. Like, that really just, and I think, and I knew it a little bit. Like, one of the reasons you write a book, they're, journalism, whatever. It's also a commercial endeavor, so you pick big topics because you want people to buy them. So LeBron, the Lakers are like, there's a reason the Lakers. I think every era of the Lakers will have a book done, in the like from 1980s through now. But like, while living it, it's different. And just the way every nugget about the Lakers, every note, or about LeBron too, right? The way these things get amplified and magnified. And it's clearly like people make fun of the media. Like, why does ESPN always talk about LeBron or the Lakers? I mean, they're not doing it for no reason, right? They're doing it, I'm assuming, because the numbers say that works, right? Like, they're not just saying, hey, we like LeBron, let's talk about him. So it's just, it's like a microscope. And because of that, I think these entities have images they need to, they're big on managing their narratives, imaging they need to maintain, they want to uphold, push out, messaging, like all these things. It's just, the stakes feel higher. Maybe that's a better way to put it, as opposed to when you're doing the Sixers, and not through any fault of their own. It's just the Lakers and LeBron are different.
So you getting sued by the Lakers sort of demands a follow-up here.
Threatening.
What happened? Threatening to sue you. So, so they reach out with a letter?
Yes. I mean, so I've told the story. I'll say it again. Like, so, when I start the book, I reach out to the principals, everyone involved. And so that means the Lakers and Jeanie Buss. And I actually met with Jeanie Buss a couple times off the record meetings. And I only share that because she's talked about those in interviews. She mentioned, like, there's a writer who's doing a book. And I remember being like, okay, I guess we're not off the record. I don't know. I'm a little confused here. Like, she would say, there's a writer who's doing a book who said this to me. So I guess we're clear then. So things like, I knew she wasn't into the idea, but like, things were fine and cordial, right? Like, they weren't participating in any way. And there was, random issues here and there, but nothing major. And then the day the Dan Hurley news broke, so that was game 1 of the 2024 finals, I believe. So I was covering the finals for Fox Sports there, and I'm on the sidelines. It's game 1. And I remember it gets to the Dan Hurley stuff. And I get let's say tip-off's at 8:00. And so at 6 p.m. or something, I'm on the sideline and I'm, scrolling your phone instead of actually doing work or talking to people. And then, as we all do. And then, and I see this note come through from this guy. It's just like from the letter, from the desk, I forget exactly, of Marty Singer, which is a name I didn't know. It says he's representing the Lakers. And I Googled him. It turns out he's a famous defamation lawyer in LA, which also, and I was like, oh, that kind of tracks like who would Jeanie Buss and the Lakers hire. They would hire like the guy from like the 90s, early aughts, who was like the defamation guy, right? It's just completely on brand.
Right.
So he
wasn't involved in the OJ trial.
Right. Exactly. Right. It's exactly it. So, and it's kind of like I've described it as not a cease and desist, but we're just, be aware we're watching you type thing. Anyway, so when I get that letter, I'm like, okay, all informal communication, not like you're sending a letter from a lawyer, like we're done with that, which is fine. And I remember the Dan Hurley part factors in, because I remember being like, I guess as a reporter, you take some pride in, okay, they are interviewing Dan Hurley today. That's breaking today. But somewhere, somebody spent at least 7 minutes on this letter on my book. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm, it's like a pat in the back. So anyway, so then I send them fact checking like before I publish, right? So then I've been explaining this on interviews because I think it's good for people because they don't really understand what that means. So the way it works is, you send, if they're not participating, I send a list of questions. And when I always call it kind of negatives, right? Like I don't need to send. One of the Maloof brothers told me how great an owner Jeanie was. Like Jeanie doesn't need to respond to that. I don't need her response. I'm sure she'll be like, yeah, I agree. Cool. We're done. Right. So you send this document, and I think I counted it recently. It was like 40, and I'm 40 negative questions or things that are ambiguous, or, I want her / them. And it's not all about her. Some could be about Rambuses or Rob Pelinka or whatever. To respond to. And by the way, they're not all original. It's not all original reporting either. Some of it is stuff that I found in old articles. And I should have talked about this more in other places too. Like some of it's previous quotes or other things that I haven't seen a response to. And I just kind of look at it as a book as like, not to be so grandiose, but like I feel like it's an official record type of thing, right? And people look back at them. So I just want to give them a chance to talk or give their response or whatever. And I'm always sympathetic to this because I know when you get that letter and you see like 40, 45, quote negatives, like I can only imagine it's like, oh my God, this is a hit piece. Like I get it like that. And I always write this. And my response is like my initial, I include the letter saying, would love to chat on the phone. We can talk about this, happy to be told where I'm wrong. Like nothing's been published yet. So if someone has a reason why this is wrong or the context is wrong or facts wrong, God bless. And I will like in fact checking stuff with other, principles and subjects, like things were removed because it was context was added, whatever. I was shown something different. And I was like, okay, that works. Instead, they had this Marty Singer write a very grandiose and threatening letter, right? That's like the part that's going viral. That's where he said something along the lines of, "Make no mistake." This is not a direct quote, but pretty close. "Make no mistake. Plenty of people threaten to sue, but have but don't have the means or ability or desire. We have both, or whatever." So he published this. I mean, most of the claims were ridiculous, like saying quotes that had previously appeared in the LA Times, on the record quotes, saying those were fake, like things like saying things like Linda Rambis doesn't speak to agents when 25 agents will tell you they've spoken to her, saying things like the Lakers are, operated sometimes we're penny pinching. She was very offended by that. Jeanie. Then you see like the Lakers sell, and every article, even on ESPN, is like, here are examples of all the times the Lakers were cheap and how things could be different now. So and these are like, defamation against public figure. It's very hard to prove. It's very hard to show anyway. Like there was no case, but it's still a little scary when you get that letter. So that's a long-winded answer, but that's sort of the answer, the background there.
Well, and you answered my follow-up there about like the specific things that they took an issue with, but in general, like even just reading the book, there's so many characters involved, which isn't surprising if you follow the Lakers for any amount of time, with the amount of people that are in and out of that organization and somewhat affiliated and kind of partly affiliated and officially not affiliated, but kind of hanging around. There's just a ton of characters involved with the Lakers. So I'm curious from a reporting perspective on you. Does that make it almost easier because you have so many potential sources, or does it make it harder because you're kind of trying to triangulate all these different kinds of things all at the same time?
Yes. How about that?
Okay. Yeah.
So like the Lakers. So I live in New York. I have never covered the Lakers before. I've never really written about LeBron before either. I mean, like, here or there, a game or whatever, but nothing in depth. But one of the reasons I was comfortable diving in on this, let's say Lakers specific, LeBron maybe is a separate conversation, but just going on the Lakers stuff is I knew it was a revolving door in recent years, which if you're a reporter, nothing better than finding former employees, right? to bring it to go back. Like then you verify, you don't take everything, you verify, you make sure perspectives are good, but just former employees are more likely to talk to you about something than people who currently work there. It's just, common sense. And I knew the Lakers there were many of those, right? So that part, like that wasn't daunting. The part triangulating was definitely hard because there's a lot of, there was even sections of the book, not like it's hard where I would take I would write 1,200 words, think I liked it, and then just decide, I don't have it. Like I don't have it down, and basically just have to exit because it's a lot of he said, right? And it's just not checking out, and just I can't nail it down. Like the Westbrook trade was almost like that in terms of the order of operations. That's a great example of everyone blames each other, and you don't need my quote inside sourcing to tell you that everyone blames each other. You can see this, right? Like that the Lakers blame LeBron blames, and they all blame each other, and trying to get to the root of the order of operations there. Like that's a great example where it's hard, and where I almost just kind of yada yada, not the trade, but just he was available, yada yada. He's a Laker, and here's what happened. With some background. Right. I think I ended up getting some more on there, which we can talk about. But just things like that are examples where it's just it is hard. And there's so many different people, and that's almost more of a LeBron and clutch thing as opposed to as a Lakers and clutch thing as opposed to a Lakers internally. Like Jeanie, you can, if you want to criticize her, fine. The one thing her inner circle is pretty much on the same page. You can say it might not be the most diverse inner circle, and maybe she should bring in other opinions, but the inner circle being her, Linda Rambis, her best friend we can talk to, and Rob Pelinka, others, but those are basically the inner circle. They're, for the most part, no one of them is not going to throw the other one under the bus. Right? They're kind of on the same page there.
And you kind of mentioned LeBron there. The Westbrook trade, all that. You write about all this stuff, and I don't want to step on the book by getting.
We can't. Step on all you want. Not to force your questions, but you're good. Don't worry.
But the Westbrook thing is really interesting, right? Because that was sort of the middle part of the relationship between LeBron and the Lakers, and it felt in a lot of ways there's a couple pivot points with LeBron's relationship with the Lakers and how it started. And you just think about how when he first gets to the Lakers and he posted that meme, "I can't believe this is my life," and where it is now. It's been time, right? It should be expected to feel like it's in two different places after some time passes, but it really does feel like it's in two very different kinds of places. And to me was kind of zooming out on your book, a really interesting way to kind of look at it and how you wrote it, to see that evolution of the relationship between LeBron and the Lakers. And I think one of the feelings that I came away with, and you might have even written this verbatim at some point, but the feeling I came away with was there's sports partnerships, right? Like Steph and the Warriors, it feels like a family. LeBron and the Lakers, it feels like they used each other. And that's not even necessarily a bad thing. Like the Lakers needed a star. LeBron needed to be in LA. And they used each other, and they won a championship and a tremendous amount of success. And obviously that their time is kind of coming to an end here sooner rather than later. Would you agree with that as sort of a yeah?
Yeah, I would. But what's interesting, I agree with that. But I think what makes that interesting is that it's the Lakers, and it's not what Jeanie Buss sort of envisioned to begin with. Let's take LeBron out for a second. Let's think Lakers. Like Jeanie Buss envisioned herself as. She grew up watching her dad. It's the relationship that the one that holds all the power is her dad and Magic Johnson, right? And that was not a team and star using each other. That was a true partnership, brotherhood, family, like that. Like that's a whole different level. And then Kobe also, Jerry Buss loved Kobe. That was not if Magic was like a brother to him, really. Kobe is almost more like a son, like a grandson, almost, right? And Jeanie had a close relationship with Kobe that especially developed later on. And I would guess, I don't know this, but I guess that when LeBron first got there, Jeanie was hoping / thinking it's going to be me, Magic, LeBron, Kobe, where this is going to be the family, right? Like this is where I'll hang in. Rob Pelinka, it's not just a partnership. It's not just that's a partnership. No, not just a business partnership, I should say. Like more a family thing. And the fact that it was not that is interesting, and I think runs counter sort of to the Lakers ethos that she originally was pushing, right? Like, I mean, there might even be quotes of her saying, "Welcome to the Laker family, LeBron," or stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like just thinking that way. And even you could see it, by the way, like the bubble celebration at the when they're literally celebrating on the floor, you can see some of these feelings. She's talking about LeBron. I forget the exact words, but she's talking about LeBron in a different kind of way. And Rob Pelinka, I mean, I love it. Rob Pelinka is literally saying, they're screaming, King James, King James. Like if you watch it, it's kind of weird, honestly, but if you watch it, the YouTube video of the celebration, you can see him in the background, like chanting King James, like a little kid. Yeah, right. It's funny. So, and obviously did not end up in that way. And I don't know. I think you're right. The Westbrook thing, I don't know if it's the root of it, but it's it's almost like the root and what broke it, right? It's sort of both. Right. For sure. Like that, everything was different after that. And you could see the trust was just not there. And I don't know. I don't. It didn't have to be like that, but just I think you're right to kind of pinpoint the Westbrook trade as the line of demarcation.
Can I ask you to do like a radio segment-y thing and,
of course.
and do like a blame pie for the Westbrook
trade?
Blame
pie, yeah, sure. So honestly, I mean, I've been saying, I'll say, I have been saying 50-50. I mean, I haven't said that. It truly is. Here, so I'll give you the details, right? So this is my report. Like they both came at it, both sides. Let's just say there's a complete divide. Let me back up. The big mistake was, and I probably should have harped on this in the book, I think more, and I think it doesn't get enough attention in general. The mistake was reacting to the previous offseason, overreacting to the offseason. Like that's if you want to look, and again, I regret as you talk about this more stuff, like I regret not harping on this more in the book because the huge mistake, LeBron gets here year one, he torpedoes the year, but they trade for AD, whatever. Then the bubble, COVID year. The mistake everyone makes is like the COVID affected year was not the bubble. It was the year after. Like the bubble, we played majority of the season. And then the bubble, everyone was there. There's no travel. Everyone's on even playing field, like everyone level playing field. Everything's controlled, right? The next year is the year where it's weird as shit, right? You don't know. Guys are in and out of lineup. You don't know who's playing, who's not. Some stadiums have fans. Some don't. Every city's different. The travel's weird. There were 71 days between the Lakers, the end of when they celebrated the title and the start of the next season. Like the season was weird. And I think the results kind of showed that, right? The calendar was still off, all of it. So the Lakers start off that season. They start off their title defense strongly. Then they fall off and they lose. They go up 2-1 the Suns and they lose in the first round to the Suns with AD and LeBron both getting hurt. The Suns eventually make the finals. It's easy to say now, and this one I don't judge them as much, right? But like looking back, the mistake was reacting to that loss and not being like, you know what, we had no shot. Like after the bubble, we had no shot. Like let's just reset, rest, keep Caruso, keep Caldwell Pope, keep building this core around LeBron and AD, tweak around the margins, and not react to it, right? Just like not overreact. And so this brings me back to like what's the blame pie thing is. Both sides overreacted to that, and it's interesting. And I think that's the big mistake. So LeBron's huddling up with Jared Dudley and Anthony Davis, and they're looking for a third star. And it's some of these names were out there before, like DeRozan and Lillard, and who am I forgetting? Well, Bradley Beal told me he met with them. That was kind of out there, but I was in Beal. Like I asked him about it, he gave me a blunt answer, but said like he spoke to them that he was a legit option. So those three, and then Westbrook was also there, and people are telling me that Rob Pelinka is walking around the front office saying, you know, we need a third star. We need to compete with the Nets. The big three, which is funny. I mean, this again show randomly. Like I had people from the Wizards telling me that, like, you know, that they were being reached out to ask about Russ from people in the front office. Like, so Russ, everyone was coming at Russ, right? So that's why they all kind of came at it from their own places. Again, I don't know whose idea it was first, but like everyone was in on it. Everyone was in on it. Everyone was cool with it. LeBron was very clearly cool with it because that was one of the names he landed on. And people close to Westbrook will tell you that like LeBron had been talking to him. But it wasn't like the Lakers and Rob Pelinka pushed back. And, you know, in the book I have Linda Rambis calling Russell's agent, Westbrook's agent, saying, you know, basically we're going to be in touch about a trade here. We're going to work this out. And then ownership, the trade was finalized at the ownership level between Jeanie and Ted Leonsis. So to answer your question, like, I do say 50-50 because the mistake, the original sin, the mistake was reacting to that previous year's loss, like, and or overreacting to that, and both sides had that same reaction. If you want to talk about Westbrook, I still probably go maybe. Yeah, I guess it's interesting, right? If LeBron, do the Lakers make that trade if LeBron's not in on it? maybe not, right? I might guess that might be the answer, right? Like, where they were okay with it, they were fine. There was no pushback. Maybe they don't. I mean, there was the Buddy Hield thing, which again, we talk about stuff that's kind of hard to get to the root of the issue and let the who's telling the truth on when it happened. So I guess I'll give LeBron a little more than the Lakers.
You mentioned Pelinka there. And you have this funny story in the book about how when he was doing the Anthony Davis trade, there were some people in the Pelicans front office that were like, what's with this guy?
Yeah.
And I think like they weren't sure that he even knew that there was like that he could do a pick swap and kind of it just crazy kind of like stuff like for the guy that's in charge of a front office. And then you fast forward to the Luka trade and how that was just done so secretly and expertly, and now Pelinka is getting all the credit for one of the greatest heists in NBA history. The evolution of Rob Pelinka is maybe more interesting than the evolution of any of these other characters throughout the LeBron tenure.
I mean, so I could write a whole book of Rob Pelinka. And there was nobody I had more fun reporting on, reading about, learning about, writing about than Rob Pelinka. I think he is like one of the most fascinating dudes in the NBA. So, and like quietly an important historical figure. Like, again, not like a star, but if you talk about the guys who he's like behind,
yeah,
you talk like 20 years with whatever the numbers with Kobe, then the GM of the Lakers. Has an issue with Magic Johnson, but that puts him like in the room with another, an inner circle all-time great. Then with LeBron and then Luka, like this is a guy, like again, NBA, Forrest Gump's the overused cliche, not quite that, but just like really an important, involved historical NBA figure. Fab Five, I should start that too, right? Like part of the Fab Five, like it's just around for some really interesting teams, and the fact that and the fact that he's a different kind of guy and he's different. He's just different. He's cut differently. He says different things. He acts differently. And it was interesting unpacking it because like talked to high school friends of his and some of them say he was different. Like he was driven back then, he wouldn't go to parties because he knew he wanted to be a Division I athlete and things like that. And what I couldn't unlock is or I couldn't figure out is where sort of the streak of ambition was unlocked, where he sort of became this very cutthroat, right? And just sort of within the agency world, worked on an island. I mean, what's one of the interesting things, like you trace. One of the things I love about doing a book is it's a little armchair psychology, but you find these character traits that sort of follow a person throughout their lives. And Rob Pelinka, like a bit of a loner, was always like that. That was something that through high school, college, working an agency when he was under Arntellum, and people are saying, yeah, he wasn't like the guy who would do like working groups. He was sort of his own island there. Even the Lakers kind of like he's the same thing, right? It's just interesting when you see these things follow people around. So yeah, he's completely fascinating. I'm fascinated by the fact that he's somebody that people in the NBA world don't trust. It doesn't, like I had someone ask me if that impacts the Lakers' ability to make trades, and I don't think so, really. Like I think if somebody wants a guy, you can get it done. But like I had a former GM, or I don't remember. I had a GM, I don't remember his former current, tell me that when Rob Pelinka was an agent, like the way this GM described it was there were certain agents who you knew if you had a verbal agreement in April at the combine, you were good in July, and Rob was not one of those. And that to me is wild to have that as a description in such a closed environment. Like the NBA is a small world, and it's like, use the term repeat customers, right? You're dealing with the same people over and over. So it's just wild to be able to survive and thrive with that trade personality. But I also think it lends to one of the themes of the book is sort of like how you can leverage power. And if you have, how you survive and thrive with that, you're representing Kobe. So like everyone's going to take your call because you're Kobe's guy. Or if you're the Lakers GM, right? That's how you kind of get away with it. So to answer your question, yeah, the evolution's really interesting. The way like the jackets he wears, that's everything. I love it all. I can't get enough of him. I think he is just like, he's unintentionally funny. I think he's probably a genuinely good person. I think in the business, I think he's somebody who believes that like when I put my business hat on, that's different. I don't know if I fully agree that the way he should act, but yeah, I love Rob Pelinka, really.
And the level of detail that you have in the Luka trade, I mean, people doubted how much was LeBron actually involved, and all this. On your reporting, it really does sound like you even have texts from like the Lakers players group text about like it. It was a surprise. Like LeBron was surprised.
100%. First of all, anyone who's Okay, so I'm in New York, right? So the funny part
Right.
of the Luka trade is it happened. The Lakers played the Knicks that night. The Luka trade happened a Saturday night, right? And the Lakers were in the Garden. And then what happens when the Lakers come to New York? It's usually a Saturday night primetime game. Now they usually have a day off, whatever. It's usually like a vacation. Lots of family, agents, everyone comes with a team, right? And that Saturday night they go out after, and you see everyone in the hallways. And anyway, so in the hallway after the game, hanging out in the hallway in Madison Square Garden outside the locker room. Rich Paul's hanging out there. Savannah James, they're all hanging out. And like Rich Paul is Farrell, who's the COO, maybe Clutch Sports, something like that. But like this is not a group who has any clue that one of their top clients on their top client's team is. So forget even the text. Like this is not a group who has any clue that a trade's about to happen. If they do, it's not even that they'd be acting. Like they'd be. They're not on their phones. They're not doing their job. They're hanging out and like yucking it up with reporters in like joking ways, right? So that like the idea that they knew, I think somebody put it out at one point that they knew, and then it was changed, which we don't have to make fun of certain reporters. But they never, the idea that Rich Paul knew was never the case. I'm sure maybe he knew like 5 minutes before the rest of us, right? But like the idea that he knew was never the case. Then I have the group chat. So yeah, I have Bronny shared the Shams tweet that we all saw and basically said. Is it real? What happens is they go out. So LeBron was out to dinner with Savannah. Bronny, I don't know if he was back in the hotel or whatever, but like this is what happens. Everyone goes their separate ways in New York. And Bronny shares this and says, "Is this real?" And AD says that these blanks just trade me. And LeBron goes, "WTF?" and some kind of emoji face. And like, so yeah, maybe I try to be clear. Like AD might have been on the phone with Pelinka on speakerphone as he's doing this text, right? So I don't know. He might have like technically found out before that text, right? It could, we've all been on phone calls on speaker while you're texting in a group chat, right? So we can all relate to that. But yeah, they were shocked. They were stunned.
Speaking of pivot points, I mean, the Luka trade is one. We talked about the Russell Westbrook thing. In reading your book again, the way that you have it laid out timeline wise, I think a lot of people would have assumed, they hired JJ Redick from LeBron's Mind the Game podcast. That's JJ Redick's guy, or that's LeBron's guy. That's a favor for LeBron, all that kind of stuff. And the way that Rob Pelinka and everybody that's involved in the Lakers front office were kind of talking about JJ Redick and Dan Hurley, the way that they were talking about both of these candidates as coaches, hey, we don't know how much LeBron's going to be here. We need somebody that's a basketball person that can kind of help lay the foundation for post-LeBron. It almost feels like, no. The JJ Redick hire wasn't necessarily a favor for LeBron. It was another pivot point in like the post-LeBron. It might have been the marker of the post-LeBron era is we're not getting that proven head coach.
Not even for that. I think it was. So the book, I ended the book before I had to go back in and add the Luka trade, right? The book was ending on that. The book ended originally on, and this will relate back. The book ended originally on LeBron and Bronny together, right? Basically that first game. And I bring this up because the Luka trade changed things for the Lakers. Like, go back. We'll talk about Dan Hurley in a second, but go back and listen to Rob Pelinka's press conference introducing JJ Redick as head coach, right? And if you listen, it's jarring to hear. This is not the Lakers talking about star players. They're talking about they want to develop. I should look into this. They were going to develop an app for player development. This was a thing. They were going to make an app for player development, right? Like it was all about the new CBA and Apron World, and you have to player development and internal growth. Like we are now like we're operating like I don't know who's like a development team, the Orlando Magic. I don't even know. Like we're not the Lakers anymore, right? And the Luka trade changed all that, and I love kind of listening. Sometimes press conferences can be really revealing if you take a step back and like. If you juxtapose the JJ Redick press conference to the Luka Doncic one, where Rob Pelinka is talking about the seismic event for the Lakers versus another star, he's shouting out Luka's agent Bill Duffy and his management team, and it's like, oh, we're back, baby! Like this is the Lakers. It's like this is the old Lakers. We're back. But the JJ, 100%, they were pivoting. They were pivoting to we are going to be post LeBron player development. That's why that was why they went Dan Hurley or JJ Redick. Look at the other coaches they had hired, right? So. They wouldn't hire Ty Lue. They hired Frank Vogel. They hired Darvin Ham. These were guys who, it's not saying bad about them, but these were not big name coaches. These were not big brands. These were, whatever. They were fine. Vogel, he won a title, but it's, these are average NBA coaches, right? Give or take. They wanted a coach to sort of be like the face of the operation. Like this was a big difference for them. They were going to pay them. They didn't pay previous coaches. That was the whole thing with Ty Lue. They weren't going to pay those guys. They were going to pay Dan Hurley. I know there was some some people thought they maybe lowballed, and the fact that they offered him like 90 and not as much as anyone else shows that they weren't really serious. But I think if you know the Lakers history, the fact you can't compare their offer to other teams' offers. You have to compare what they offered him to what they were offering their other coaching candidates, like Ty Lue, right? That for them, this was a huge deal to offer Dan Hurley that. They wanted somebody who could be sort of, face a program, player development, win games, be good in X's and O's, which was like, so Dan Hurley, we can discuss whether we think he would have been good in the NBA or not. I think he would have been a disaster. But, in UConn, he did both, right? He won games, but developed players. JJ Redick, obviously, is not known, but you can make fun of JJ Redick all you want. I have no doubt. It sounds like I'm making fun, but I'm not. What that guy probably showed in his interviews in terms of what, like the coaching deck that he probably brought to those is probably the most, and it sounds like I'm making a joke. I am a little bit, but it's probably the most unbelievable coaching deck ever in terms of his plans and how he was going to have different everything working together and player development. Like, you just know he's a bit of OCD. He's obsessive. He's talked about how he spent 2 years preparing for this, talking to everybody. Like, I'm sure he wowed them in the interview process, right? And he's respected. So it was going to be a new Lakers team until Nico Harris had decided that Luka Doncic was too fat to win a title with, so he had to trade him. I don't know.
I have a couple more questions here. I appreciate the time so far.
It's fun.
There's this really interesting stuff about LeBron in Saudi Arabia that I keep thinking about. Like, I just kind of it keeps popping up in my brain. So he's the owner of what is essentially a water racing team based in Saudi Arabia.
You're gonna need help. Like, I wrote this, but I'm not gonna remember this all off the top of my head. So I'm gonna need your help on the specifics here and some of these. Okay.
Yeah. That's about. So basically, he's the owner of this water racing. E1 is what it's called. It's a Saudi Arabian team. It's named after some sort of castle or prince or something. Whatever. We know what LeBron wants post playing career. He's been very, very open about wanting to own the team in Las Vegas. As you lay out in your book, yes, he's a $1 billion athlete, the first active $1 billion athlete we've ever had. That's not even close to what it takes to buy an NBA team, right? So you need $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 billion to buy an NBA team. So he's schmoozing now with Saudi Arabia. You can read into. You can either think that maybe LeBron is super passionate about water racing,
right?
Or maybe a little bit more plausible, he just wants to give Saudi Arabia a taste here, so that maybe there's a you scratch my back, I scratch yours type of deal. The last couple of years, the NBA okayed minority ownership stakes from outside investors, including outside the United States investors.
Right, government and investment fund, and countries' investment funds like Qatar and stuff like that. That's a big part. Yep,
huge part of this, and that kind of leads me to my question here. Do you sense any kind of concern about anything from the NBA or LeBron or Clutch or Las Vegas, anything about Saudi Arabia having ownership stake in what would be potentially here a landmark, like kind of flagship NBA team in Las Vegas?
It's a good question. I'm not sure is a short answer, but like, I'm glad you brought this up, right? Because not only he didn't just he didn't just invest in that team. That's one. He took a trip. I don't know if you have it. He posed with a prince there whose name I'm not going to know off the top of my head, but there's one of the princes there who's involved, I think, in the PIF, which is the investment fund, or maybe the sport. And forgive me if I'm getting some of these a little off, but just basically one of these princes posted a picture of LeBron and Maverick Carter in Saudi Arabia. It's like, this is not just like passive money investment. Like they took a trip there. They visited. He ran a camp. I tried reaching out to people who were at the camp, but I couldn't. I failed there. So for sure, I think I have some like anonymous quotes from some former owners or something saying that like they assume that LeBron. It just makes sense for him to talk to that from there. I mean, listen, my answer would be like the NBA. Have they shown any reticence or concern about any of this? Like the Qatar is part owner of the Wizards, right? Or the Qatari fund. Everyone's taking the money. I don't know. Everyone's taking the money. So like I haven't seen. I can't speak specifically to LeBron, but just I haven't seen anyone push back on any of this in any sport in any way, right?
Not in
just
comedy,
like,
not in sports, nothing.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, yeah. So and to be clear, like what that would look like if LeBron did it, no one knows, right? But just he's very clearly, he's very clearly started to form a relationship. There's no arguing that he started build like that. That's a fact. He has started building a relationship with members of Saudi Arabian government, right? And then because the government is what runs these funds and things like that. And the other part that I want to add is like I even had reporting that he had started talking kind of having these ownership conversations. Like everyone thinks Vegas, but that Maverick Carter and people had started reaching out to these ownership circles are small. So like the money people, like everyone knows who they are. I'm going to make up a number. Let's say there's 50 of them, right, in the world, in the country. And that's a made up number. But like it's pretty quick. If you're interested in maybe one day being involved in ownership, like there's 50 people you talk to, let's say, right? And you kind of start those conversations. And Maverick Carter had started those years, I think around 2015, I wrote something like that, like years earlier. So this is not something new. And just through Vegas, I don't know what to make of this because all the, that BS European League that they're not involved in, or they are involved. I don't know. That whole thing, the Jokic, like that all kind of popped after the book came out. Honestly, I had no wind on that, and I have nothing in on that. I don't know where that meshes with this stuff, but it's all interesting. It's all interesting.
Yeah. And to be clear, I think it's like a 20% cap on these outside investment funds. So it wouldn't be like Saudi Arabia owns the team outright essentially, and LeBron is just sort of the face of it. Like there's a percentage cap on, but it's still, quite a bit of money. I thought it was interesting. My last thing here for you, and this might be unfair, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
I love it.
After having written this book, what's your best guess on whether or not this is LeBron's last season?
So my answer has been it's a cop out, but it's like I call it an informed cop out. Like I don't know, but my reason is I don't think he knows. Right? That's sort of that's my educated. Again, like I'm not Rich Paul is not telling me that, right? And I'm obviously not talking to LeBron. So like, but I think he just seems unsure to me as someone who's spent a lot of time thinking about him, talking to people about him, just reporting on the options. It just seems to me he's unsure of how to proceed here in these unfamiliar waters, right? Just like so you laid out, he's on an expiring contract for the first time in his career. That's different for him. He says they didn't ask for a contract. I think that's sort of like, you don't break up with me, I break up with you type of thing. Like, yeah, I guess they didn't ask for a contract, but I've yet to hear any explanation for why you'd rather be on an expiring deal than have a player option. Like nobody's given me that. If someone can present that to me, then God bless. We know he's going to want to have a farewell tour. Most people assume he's going to want to have a farewell tour. Most people assume he doesn't want to play for like a random team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, or even like the Dallas Mavericks, people draw connections to because he's got a lot of friends there. Which it'd be weird, right? It'd be weird LeBron's last year or two for like the Dallas Mavericks. It's a strange.
Right.
And he doesn't play for random teams. He never would, right? So it's a legacy team. So it's basically, Knicks, Lakers. He's not going to play for the Knicks. That's again weird. Basically, it's Lakers or Cavs. That's where we land, right? We land on it's Lakers or Cavs. And part of it is like, so he wants to have a farewell tour. He wants to care about winning. But he also has been very clear up until now that basically since Miami, I don't do pay cuts anymore. Like, I have a thing in my prologue, him talking about what he thinks he's actually worth. And he was right? Like he was underpaid throughout his entire career, severely underpaid if you go by the value. I mean, all NBA superstars are, him particularly. So like at a certain point though, if you want to get paid and you want to win and you want to play for a team that has this connection that matters, like you're sort of boxed in. And none of this takes into account that sort of seems like the Lakers are ready to break up with him. They didn't give him a new contract. I go back to Rob Pelinka's answer on Media Day when I think David Benjamin asked him about the contract situation, whatever. And Pelinka's answer was like along the lines of, we'd love LeBron to finish his story here, which is a non-answer, right? I kind of joke that's like parentheses and we hope that's now, right? Right.
I said the same thing.
Yeah. So it's sort of like, I think part of it is he's going to have to decide. So to answer your question, I don't think he knows. And I think that's been part of what we've seen from his reactions, like why he opts in, but then says he's focused. Sorry. Rich Paul says he's focused on winning, which is weird. Because the Lakers aren't like mortgaged out in their future, but they have Luka Doncic. So you can't tell me a team that has Luka is not focused on winning. Then he comes to Media Day and he's all happy and he's saying, I look good. My wife looks good. Everyone's happy, smiley. Now he's not playing. So I think he's just, it seems to me like somebody who's dealing with for the first time in 20, 25 years from not being in control and trying to figure out how he wants to go out, and what that would look like. And I think a big part of it will be him having to decide. I think the money part's going to play a big part of it. Like if he's willing to punt on the money, it doesn't mean take a minimum, let's say a mid-level. then like they didn't go wherever he wants. The Lakers or Cavs will be. No one's told me this, but they would be thrilled. Both teams would be thrilled to have him on a mid level because he's still good. This is the thing about LeBron. Like,
right.
I have to catch myself sometimes. Also, like, yeah, he's not Luka, and it made sense to give the team to Luka because he's not a top 5 player. He was second team All NBA last year. He's a top 25 player at minimum. So he's still great. So I think like he'll be if he's willing to take a 1 year mid level. I mean, I assume the Lakers would be like, yeah, please, that's great. The Cavs, are you kidding me? He'd be great. They'd be an Eastern Conference favorite. So it's a long-winded way of saying, like, I don't know, but I don't think he does either.
Yaron Weitzman, author of A Hollywood Ending, The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers, out now wherever you guys get books. Thanks so much for jumping on, man. This was fun.
Thanks, Wes. Appreciate it.